You're trying to create content, but you don't have time. You're trying to run the business, things keep popping up. You have client fulfillment work to do, you have operations to work, and content creation. Even though you know it's important, you just don't necessarily have the time. And then even when you do start, it's very sporadic. You'll start the process, maybe you'll start the scripting, but then of course, let's say the recording never happens, or let's say the editing is something that you don't necessarily like. There's all these moving parts nowadays that require for any content piece to be like good and also like digestible. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a system you can implement pretty much right after watching to help you create more content. Because the number one thing we need to solve for is consistency. Because other things you can learn, of course, like what the hook should be, what the value should be, what the call to action should be, that's something, of course, we need to already take care of. You cannot start videos off with a vague hook. Like nobody necessarily, as harsh as it might sound, nobody necessarily cares who you are. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting videos with, hey guys, my name is, just start off with a hook. So that's, of course, tip number one. Keep it valuable. As soon as you do the hook, get into the value portion. So a hook is basically you inviting a person to watch the video. And now the value is pretty much where you deliver on what you invited them for. And then the call to action is after they've consumed the hook and the value, what do you want them to do afterwards? So just keep the structure in mind. And after that, just make sure you solve the number one problem most people have creating content, which is consistency. You might think it's the scripting, you might think it's the editing, you might think it's the recording or even the actual posting itself for some reason, like coming up with hashtags and actual captions. The number one thing you need to solve for is consistency. Don't necessarily think about what you're going to post tomorrow. I want you to think of this in a very systematical way, because we've already agreed and established that content is important and it's something we need to do. But how do we create systems around it where this is just part of the week? Like it's something you don't necessarily even think about, it's something you do, and it's just being posted on autopilot. So over here, I have a chart, which of course is titled the batch, which basically is going to tell you how with just 19 minutes of your time, maybe perhaps on a weekly basis or monthly basis, can create you like 30 days of content. So if you follow this closely, I promise you by the end of today's video, you will have a much more aligned expectation on what you need to do to start creating more content. Because again, it's not any of those things, the scripting, editing, recording, that you need to solve for. That's something we're going to talk about. The number one thing you need to think about is how do you post consistently? Now, of course, we're going to break every barrier to get you there, but also helping you change your thinking of just posting sporadically every now and then on posting daily for the next, let's say, 6 months, because that's something we want to achieve. So, of course, the problem we've noticed for the daily posting trap is, let's say, a stressed business owner, because business owners, let's say we're stressed, there's a lot going on, and then you're also trying to cram content within that stressful day as well. So you try to do it like 15 minutes per day for 30 days. You try to do it in a very sporadic manner. There's no schedule. There's no necessarily a system behind it, for a lack of a better word. So you put like a lot of hours into this on a month-to-month basis because it's bothering you in your head. You know you have to create. So sometimes you'll go into ChatGPT, you'll go into AI, you'll watch some videos on YouTube, and you just keep spending hours. You keep spending hours and hours per month on scattered effort. And whenever you do post that video, you see no results, you get pretty much demotivated right off the bat. But that's the thing about content. Like your first 30 days, like nobody, like it's just content. Your first video might get some engagement by your friends and family as a congratulatory post, your first two. After that, things start stabilizing. This is where you discover your actual view rate. Let's say it's 500 views, 700 views, whatever the number is. And that's where pretty much, the game actually begins. You need to make sure that you're posting consistently from there onwards, because there's always an opportunity cost on this, from the part where they discover you, from the part where they're ready to buy from you. So if you only try it for like 2 days, 3 days, a month, a week, it's not going to work. So this is the number one thing we tell business owners is, if you're going to do ads, if you're going to do content, have a 90-day timeline or 120-day timeline, depending on your business. It's going to be extremely important. The opportunity cost is very important. So back to this, of course, let's say you're spending 8+ hours a month on scattered effort, and now you come up with a conclusion, I don't have time to post every single day, because you're trying a system that you've created with the sporadic effort and sporadic research, which have essentially just tired you out. Like you just are like, I just don't have time to do this. And that may not be true, because maybe you're just doing it wrong. Because if you knew exactly what you were doing, your 8 hours versus someone's 45 minutes are maybe just completely different. So here's a solution we suggest for a business owner trying to do themselves. Record 10 short videos answering common client questions. And as a bonus, I'm going to give you the framework for what type of ideas you need to do for the first 30 videos as well. So record 10 short videos answering common client questions. Or another method you can use, which for some reason I put in week 2, ignore that. Another method you can use is pretty much do like one long video. So this video can also potentially become 11 pieces. So let's say you just hit the record button and you're just talking to the camera. So let's say you have a list of questions and then you're just going by every single question piece by piece. And so you just have kind of like a setup where you just took your phone, put it on a tripod, you bought a mic, and if you are looking for a recommendation for a mic, get the DJI Mic Mini. Do not go with anything else, just get the DJI Mic Mini, keep it simple. As soon as you, of course, have that set up, just start recording and just sit down and answer a couple of questions. And then try exaggerating on the hooks. I want you to have fun with it. Like, stop caring how you look. Stop caring how you sound. Like, of course, these things become important later on. Maybe you have like 5,000, 10,000 followers. But I promise you, anything under that, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. So don't necessarily worry about how you look. I would just focus on one thing, and that is hitting that post button. That's it. So other things I would actually focus on is, okay, I need to exaggerate more on the hook. I need to make sure that this video is, like somewhat valuable. And even if it isn't perfect, you're not aiming for perfect because you just need to hit that post button. Because if you keep aiming for that perfect video, you're not going to make progress because you know this as well. I know this as well. Perfection is just an excuse to make people even slower. People try to get 10 out of 10 videos, but it doesn't exist. So you just need to focus on one thing, which is hitting that post button. And I promise you, if you do that 365 times a year, things are going to look extremely different for your business. And then, of course, later on, if you couple that with ads, it's going to look even more different because doing anything once is easy. Video by itself is easy. Editing by itself is easy. Scripting by itself, in and of itself, is easy. Posting by itself is easy as well. But now do that 365 times. That's where the challenge comes in play. So it's a very important thing to keep in mind. Like, just do not care how you look or all this extra stuff. Just focus on pushing content as much as you can. And by the 15th video, you'll just start looking at everything as a metric anyways. You'll quickly realize that, all of this was just in my head. People don't necessarily truly care how I look or how I talk. This is just kind of like, what am I saying and what the video idea is about is what's more important to the person watching, not necessarily about some random pimple on my face where nobody can even see. And you can use like a face filter to hide that anyways. So stop worrying about all that stuff and things are going to look extremely good. So even over here, this is not something you necessarily have to do, but this is just an example of what you can do if you decided to put this on steroids. You can take that one long clip. If you want, you can put this into YouTube as well, just like one long video. You don't necessarily have to do this in the start. I would just focus on short form content. You can make like carousel posts, you can make 5 text posts, you can make an email newsletter. You can do a lot of things, and this is, of course, with the help of AI. But again, this is all optional within this box over here. I would only focus on, of course, this thing over here, which is week 1, record 10 short videos answering common client questions. And basically over here in week 3 and week 4 is we just need to make sure we have a system where we know that it's being taken care of editing wise, it's being taken care of the posting wise as well. Posting, I usually recommend doing it manually, but even doing it manually sometimes it'll just cost you time. So if you can, I will just schedule everything to post automatically. You can use the Business Suite Manager, which is pretty much free. Just go to business.facebook.com. And from there, just input. And then from there, just go to the content section, calendar, and then you can literally schedule all of your posts. Like, I want you to make sure that we're condensing all of this into a system rather than you having to do it every single day. Because if you do it every single day, it's just not going to work. Like, you have to create systems around it. Just record for 45 minutes a week, have another 45 minutes where you just, write down the captions, hashtags, and just schedule all of the posts. The editing is one thing I want you to outsource. There's tons of editors. You can, talk to a couple of people, get some referrals from the editing, and just outsource that as much as you can. It's just not worth it to just sit down and spend hours on editing by yourself because there's already experts who are way better than you who can take care of this. Because there are editors who are just way better than what you will ever produce using like CapCut or something. But if it's like really that tight, then I would just use something like CapCut. Just do simple captions, simple cuts. But this is one of those things, if you have a lot of retakes in your videos, if you have a lot of things that need to be edited, I would just send it to the editor, trust their judgment, make sure that, you give them some sort of instruction. So they also have an idea of what they need to do. And they'll make sure that all of your videos are being polished. And while that's happening, you just kind of like get the other stuff prepared. So as soon as you start receiving the content, you can review it. Everything's good, you just schedule it for posting. That's pretty much the system you need. And the results are pretty much simple. So What you forget is the daily posting stress because you've already scheduled it. The constant content creation pressure, that's also done because you already sat down for like 45 minutes and then you did 10 videos just by answering a few questions. And then short form content, the beauty of it is like a video could be literally 25 seconds. It could be 45 seconds. So that's another beautiful part about short form content. Platform management headaches. Again, we're just scheduling it out in advance. And just your average time consuming manual task, which content just has. And of course, what you set is content themes and topics. So these are some of the things you're going to be working on instead. Publishing the schedule. So you'll have a set schedule that you're going to be following. Response templates, performance metrics. So these are a couple of the things that you will be aiming to do instead of just doing this side over here, which is just like stress, pressure, headaches. On the left-hand side is where you're actually focusing on the right things. And even over here, like the old way, you might be spending like 30 plus hours per month on the daily posting grind. And then the new way, you're just spending like 4 hours a month on this batch creation system. And you're literally saving 26 plus hours on a month-to-month basis if you just do it this way. So this is pretty much the TLDR version of this. 45 minutes and 90-minute content session. This is pretty much kind of like the combined effort of scheduling and also recording. So on a weekly basis, you might just review and just kind of like look into the engagement and metrics of your content. And daily, you pretty much have a zero content task because you've already created a system on specific days on what you're going to be doing. You don't need to necessarily click the post button every day. You just need to create ones and distribute everywhere. Now, one thing I've added over here is, let's say you're not posting anything. You don't even necessarily need to post every day. And this is, of course, me coming after the fact where I've told you to like hit the post button as many times as you can. But we'll take the Kaizen approach as well if you're not posting at all. Like if you've struggled posting anything, instead of, overloading yourself with, okay, Arib, I got to post like every single day. What do I do? What do I do? Just make a schedule for maybe like 3 times a week, and then go to 4 times a week, and then go to 5 times a week. And then the more you get comfortable, the more load you can add on. So you can definitely take the Kaizen approach when it comes to creating content and establishing a schedule. And also, as promised, I just have like a very few pointers on scripting. The first 30 content ideas that you're going to do is pretty much these things. Competitors' top videos, I would just go to your competitors, look into the top videos, and I would just kind of like copy that and make your own version of that specific stuff. And then I'll let you know what type of videos you also need to copy, like which specific videos, and how to identify if that video is worth copying or not. Most asked question and answers. So let's say if you're a credit repair business, just answer the most asked Q&As. This is something you can also just go to like Google Trends, you can go to like Instagram search, TikTok search, type in credit repair, and then all the questions that come up. Let's say if you go to a viral content and all the questions that come up, you answer them one by one. Like literally all the content that people are looking for are in some people's comment section because they just don't necessarily have the time to answer that perhaps. Maybe because they've gotten to a level where, they already have this thing established and, responding to people's comment might not be their top priority. But this just goes to the show that, you can capitalize on that opportunity. So over here, the top videos formula is the view count needs to be 5x more than the follower count. So if the follower count is 100,000 and if the video got 80,000 views, I wouldn't necessarily copy that formula because it might be just their followers. But if the view count is 5 million and if the follower count is 100,000, that's a video I would check into and worth copying. And for the most asked Q&A, like I said, just use Google Trends, Instagram search, and also just TikTok search. And that's just going to give you the list of questions you actually need to start answering and making all the content. But all in all, that's pretty much it for today's video. A very simple message. Just have a system to create content. You don't necessarily need to stress about this too much because the people you admire in the field, of course, because they have this whole backlog of content you've never seen. You only look at their most polished stuff. Like go to their old stuff. Like they didn't necessarily start with all of this polished stuff. They had this whole learning curve as well. Look at Hormozi's old content. Look at anybody you admire, their old content. Like I encourage you to do so. And that's going to give you this clear mindset of like, okay, I don't necessarily need to start with this, perfect setup. I just need to make sure that I am starting. And of course, if you're at a level where you can just outsource this help, that is where you can utilize something and let's say if you're already established business and you're looking to get help with content, the exact same system, a little bit more polished because we have pretty much experts in every single step of the way when it comes to content creation process. There's a Calendly link in the description. We work with service-based businesses to create content that gets them this exact system without any hassle and even lesser time, if anything. So book a call and we'll map out exactly what you need to start building content assets that compound over time. And if you found this helpful, please consider subscribing. I post twice a week on strategies like this that actually matter for service businesses. I'll see you in the next one.